Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I am Colleen, a director of Tax Time CPAs, and today we are hosting Business Espresso, your jolt of business acumen. Our hosts have extensive backgrounds in their respective fields of sales and marketing, accounting, risk management, wealth management, and law. Their backgrounds all come together to help small business owners thrive. But today, our expert comes to us from a field with a specialized niche of retirement planning and management. Every other week, you can find us here on Zoom at 1 o'clock Mountain Time. We offer you a different topic presented by an expert to help you create, build, and optimize your business. Each presentation gives you one actionable step to walk away with, making you better at running your business, not being run by your business. Make sure you add us to your calendars. Before I introduce today's hosts, a little reminder, we try to make this interactive. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A chat or the chat, and we'll try to answer them live. After our presentation, we'll open it up to our hosts and the audience. So without further ado, our hosts today are John Gies, our business and growth strategist from RAS Squared, our expert in scaling your sales and marketing. Christina Gilbertson, owner of Gilbertson Law Office. She uses her business law expertise to help small businesses protect themselves. And Mike Hurdle, founding member of Tax Time CPAs. His expertise lies in accounting and tax strategy. And finally, our presenter today, Katie Wendland. Katie's background may have started in the finance world, but it is her passion for helping small businesses that has brought her to where she is today as a champion for offering solutions to for the hassle business owners have when implementing retirement solutions for their employees. She understands the frustration behind all the administratively burdensome setup and continual maintenance of being a fiduciary, and is passionate about the solutions and treating her clients as if they already have 5 million plus in assets and giving them that white glove service. Katie, I'm so excited to learn from you today. Take it away.
Hello, thank you guys. Yes, I'm going to be speaking about bridging the gap in retirement crisis and how that's going to fall into why so many states today are doing retirement programs that are being mandated. So let's go ahead and start this off. So the agenda today is about their crisis in retirement, the state mandate legislation, what is the Colorado Secure Savings Program, and the difference in retirement options that small businesses will have to meet the mandate requirements here in Colorado. So the retirement crisis is due to 67 million Americans that don't have access to retirement benefits through their employer. And 50,000 average Americans have less than this amount saved for retirement. And 77% of working Americans that are not on track to have significant savings to retire by the age of 67. Rolls into how do we get here? Well, according to the 2020 annual report of Social Security Board of Trustees, the surplus of the trust funds that disperse retirement, disability, and other Social Security benefits will be depleted by 2035. This does not mean Social Security is no longer going to be around. It actually means the system's going to exhaust its cash reserves and will be able to pay out only what it takes in year to year from Social Security. Well, what is this doing and why are these mandates coming about? It is for this reason. Baby boomers make up the market right now for retirees. And due to evolving technology and medicine, everyone's living longer. And we are outliving Social Security funding, and it's depleting faster than ever expected. And a lot of employers were used to pensions, which are no longer around. So they have to offer a different type of benefit solution to help their employees save for retirement. So how does this roll into state legislation and who is required to act? Well, it's employers. We have 30 states working on mandating these state-sponsored retirement programs. Colorado. So there's different states here. For Colorado here, it's going to be effective for 5 employees W-2 employees, full-time and part-time employees that are not currently offering a qualified retirement benefit. You may be asking, what is a qualified retirement benefit? If the employer is currently offering a 401A, 401K, 401 or 403B, tax sheltered annuity plan, a 457B, a SEP IRA that they're matching on, or a simple IRA. Those are all qualified retirement plans. They're not doing something today. They're going to be mandated to enroll in the state's program. Well, what is that? It's called the Colorado Secure Savings Program. So it's a state-sponsored IRA where businesses are going to be funded through automatic payroll, starting at 5% deferral rate. So the employers are going to be responsible to auto-enroll your employees at 5%. Employees have the option to change that amount, but it's not going to integrate with your payroll. So you're going to have to do manual contributions to payroll. Who does it impact? Again, any businesses that with 5 W-2 employees, part-time more than 1,000 hours a year, or full-time. And the companies have to be in business for at least 2 years. Now, what are the penalties? Well, this can change, but it looks like we're following some of the other state penalties, and we're closest to California penalties. So non-compliant employers will be fined up to $100 per eligible employee per year, not to exceed $5,000 in a year. The enforcement will not begin till at least 1 year after the program is established. Employers will receive a 90-day notice before being penalized. Oh, and as of right now, there is no launch date. So they said August, September. But once it gets closer, we'll know a little bit further. And kind of talking about this, why is this important? The state's program is only a Roth IRA. So employers won't have the ability to match. There will not be tax incentives for a Roth IRA because it's through the state program. There's no pre-tax deductions through payroll because the state program is offering it versus the employer, which gets us into what are the differences.
Hey, Katie, can we ask a quick question about penalties?
Yes.
Do you know, will the fines go towards the Secure Savings Program, or any plans for the fines yet?
So those, as long as they have a qualified plan of 401A, 401K, 401(3)A, or 403B, 457B, SEP IRA with matching to employees, or a simple IRA, they meet the mandate requirements. If they're not doing one of those things, they're not meeting the mandate requirement, and those are the employers that will be penalized. Does that answer the question?
I think it was whether or not when there is a fine, if that will go towards the Secure Savings Program or not. Does that make sense?
Yes, I am not sure. That has not been disclosed yet.
Okay, and then we had another question on who funds the 5%. Is that the employer or the employee?
The employee. So there is no matching or funding by the employer. So that the employees are all going to be auto-enrolled starting at 5% of their own income. The government, because the Social Security is being depleted, the states are trying to find a way to help employees save for retirement so the states are not on the hook when Social Security gets decreased, which they're saying around 2035. So by 2028, every state in our nation will have a state retirement mandate, and every state's going to be a little bit different. So with the state program, right now they're all Roth IRAs. So if you have a financial advisor today, you will not be able to work with your advisor on these Roth IRAs if the employer goes through the state program, because the state's hiring one firm, financial advisor firm, to administer those Roth IRAs. There's going to be 2 fund lineups, and they're going to be chosen by the state and this financial advisor firm. And annual salary deferral limits are $5,000 with the state program. Catch-up contributions for participants 50 and over is an additional $1,000. There's no employer contribution matching allowed and there's no hardship withdrawals, loans with the state program. The other option is choosing to do something on their own. So if an employer chooses to do a 401k, a 403b, or a SEP IRA, they now qualify for what's called the Secure Act tax credit, which it goes into effect 2021 dollar for dollar, up to $5,000 of the administration cost of the plan to cover the cost, because the government ideally wants the employers to offer this versus going with the state sponsored program. With the opportunity of a 401k, they're going to get a wide range of investment options. And then salary deferrals are going to be different. Well, effective next year, says 18,000, and then catch-up contributions for participants 50 plus or 6. I believe this year's 19.5. Is that correct, Mike?
That is correct.
Okay, so 19.5 today. And employer matching is allowed. So there's multiple plans they could do, but the whole idea that a 401k offers an employer and the employees is pre-tax deduction. So even if the employer does not match with the 401k, they can still offer a 401k program. And if the employees match on their own accord, that's going to reduce the payroll tax liability on both the employee and the employer. There's a lot more flexibility with a 401k. Tax credits, which you could talk to your local CPA or a Mike here, that can go into the Secure Act tax credit and the auto enrollment credit if you choose to go outside of the state's program. Now, there's 3 different types: the Roth IRAs versus IRAs and 401ks. So contributions on Roth IRAs are taxed before they're deposited, and they're not deductible. So there's no tax penalties for withdrawal after retirement. Whereas traditional IRAs, contributions are pre-taxed and may be deductible from taxes, but you will be taxed for withdrawal after retirement. 401ks, contributions are also pre-taxed, and they are not taxed until withdrawal, and they have higher contribution limits. Any questions right here so far? Okay. So why is right now the right time to start the 401k? Well, employers who start a 401k plan can take advantage of the Secure Act savings, especially if you're paying taxes at the end of the year. It's a great way to reduce your taxable income for the business. You do not have to match. And as of right now, it seems like the costs are so low. 401ks are a lot more affordable today than they've ever been, especially in human interest here. We are a 401k record keeper. We integrate with over 64 payroll providers. Okay, we work with several financial advisors. We work with a lot of small businesses. So we specialize in startup plans. We do all the administration so that you don't have to deal with the state. So that's what human interest is here to help you with, is figuring out what option is better for you, the state program or going with a 401k. Before, on the left here, is when you're doing a simple IRA or a traditional 401k or 403b in the past, all of this red is what the owner, the HR department, and the financial advisor had to do. When human interest gets involved, we take all of that off your plate. Take all the administration, the fiduciary liability to help you set up the proper retirement program for your employees, get you the right type of forms that you can send over to your CPA to ensure you get the right tax credits. So there's a few different programs, but I'm definitely here to answer any additional questions you have. You can email me, and I'm happy to help in any way possible.
Awesome, Kate. Let's open it up to questions. I am sure with that wealth of information, we have a few percolating in some brains. But Kate, it sounds like the default is that people will just end up in the state-sponsored plan if no action is taken. Is that kind of true?
Yes and no. They're not automatically done because the employer is still going to be on the hook for the administration and setting up their employees with the state program. So there are no costs to the state program, but there is going to be time taken and liability on the business. So the business owner is still going to have to auto enroll their employees. Let's say there's a 10-person company and one employee wants to do it and the other 9 don't. The state's going to submit a form saying that every other employee doesn't want to do it. They're going to have to be signed saying that they're opting out. But if that one employee wants to contribute out of their paycheck, the employer is on the hook now Starting at 5%, the employee can reduce that amount, but if they change it at any time, the employer has to pull it from payroll, submit it to their IRA. So now if the issue is if they miss a contribution, the employer is going to be the one on the hook with the state to fix it. They're not going to be able to go to their advisor. They're not going to be able to go to a company like Human Interest to fix it for them. So we're trying to alleviate the headache. There's a lot more benefits and flexibility to go with a different program than the state program. And cannabis is not exempt. So farming and cannabis are not exempt from this program either. And Human Interest is able to work with those industries as well as a record keeper. So, and because the state, ideally, this is an employee benefit, not an employer benefit. So the state program is offering the benefit to the employees, where the employer can also receive a benefit by going a different route, like a 401k or a 403b.
Amazing. So much information. John, do you have any questions?
I do. So
the
way I heard this was the state will say, we're going to take 5% automatically from the employee. But if they go with an employer sponsored plan, there's more flexibility in terms of what the employee can offer and value that the employer can add to that, like in terms of matching, so that the employer might, or the employee might find more value with an employer that had a private plan versus a state plan.
That is correct. I mean, and also a 401k allows hardship loan withdrawals. They can change contributions. Employers can match at a rate of their choosing within different types of profit sharing, safe harbor. There's a lot more flexibility. So with the state, if they're part-time employees, they're automatically enrolled. They have to be enrolled if they're at 1,000 hours a year. With a 401k, when during plan design, an employer can say, I only want employees that are over the age of 21 that would have been with me for at least 1 year to be able to offer retirement benefit. So now they're fully vested. So if they match, they don't have to match or offer anything until that employee's been there a year. And now none of those employees are even enrolled into the plan until it meets the employer's check boxes for that plan. Design if that makes sense. So again,
the obvious question is, why would I want to wait for the state to kick this off? Why wouldn't an employer just say, well, so the other question is, how does an employer find a private plan versus the state plan? I mean, my assumption is there's thousands of opportunities for that, but how do they go about selecting a private supplier of a plan?
That's a great question. Well, there's a lot of financial advisors they can reach out to and have a conversation with. Human Interest as well, they can reach out directly to us. As a payroll provider, every payroll provider should have an integrated 401k go-to solve for this issue. And if you don't, please, if you're a payroll provider, have a conversation with me. I also work with integrations. But you can come to your payroll provider, direct to Human Interest or financial advisor to find the right type of solution for you. But Human Interest here, what we do is IRS compliance, state regulations, record keeping. So we are the back end to all of this. So we are a great first conversation to have. And businesses can reach directly out to Human Interest and to my email at katie.wendland@humaninterest.com to set up a 30-minute conversation with me. And I'm happy to address this and answer any questions you have. And that's how we can kind of go from there to get them to do it. But yes, I definitely encourage having these conversations before the mandate rolls out, because now every business is going to be drinking through a fire hose and no one's going to have the time that you need like we do today to answer your questions.
Okay, it looks like we have a question from Thomas about safe harbor. So are there participation requirements for employers that sponsor a 401k type plan? Do you almost always set up a safe harbor for new plans because of unknown participation and potential testing requirements?
Yes, it's pretty common. Safe harbor. So, I mean, we do have a lot of small plans that are 5 employees, 10 employee plans, startup virgin plans that can afford to match. So we will do a calculation testing for safe harbor. We share that information on what it would cost them annually if every employee matches at 3% or 4%. So the business can expense for that. If they can't, I have a lot of businesses that do not offer any type of retirement matching. when we just go through the discretionary testing with them on that. If that answers your question. And Safe Harbor, the last time this year to sign up Safe Harbor is October 1. So if you're making changes to Safe Harbor or you want to set up a Safe Harbor, October 1st is the deadline to do it for 2021.
Got it. We'll see. Thomas, let us know if you have any additional questions about that. If anyone else has questions, please pop them in the chat or in the Q&A box. Mike, do you have any questions for Katie?
Yeah, I got one question. Has there been anything from the state on the expected rate of return from the state investments, as opposed to having your own 401k plan where you guys are the fiduciary and can select different types of investments?
Not necessarily. So we do have them against other states. So we have the projected ratio. We're like 7 times more because of the fact that we are open architecture. So they have the option with Vanguard, Merrill Lynch, American funds, whatever they want, T. Rowe Price, where the state's going to be specific. And because they're startup plans, most likely they may be, I'm just guessing, American funds plans, but there's nothing right now that has been disclosed to us with the state board.
Yeah, and the last thing I'd like to kind of chime in on is, we use human interest for our company, and for small business owners, you've got enough on your plate. You're trying to generate revenue, you're trying to generate sales, and you're trying to get the work done that you actually need to get done. Focusing on doing admin work that somebody else can do well is much better to outsource that, and that's why we outsource it. We could do it, but we certainly use human interest because they do it better and they do it more efficiently than we can ever do it.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions?
I say, Christina, anything from your point of view from a legal or just questions?
Not really from a legal side of things. I mean, I think that Katie covered most of the questions I had, but one that I have, a lot of my clients are micro businesses, if you will. So they may not even be covered by the mandate because maybe they only have 3 or 4 employees. They don't hit that 5 employee threshold. This might be a question more for Mike, I'm not sure, but if those employers decide that they want to go ahead and offer their own 401k program or something, are they still able to get the tax breaks under the secure savings program, or is that you have to be at least 5 employees before that applies to you?
No, it's okay. So it's $250 per employee if they're under the minimum threshold. For the retirement. So the Secure Act tax credit through the IRS.gov states, as long as they're non-highly compensated employees. So if there's 3 of them, and as long as one of the 3 are not highly compensated employees, they qualify for the tax credit. So, and then that credit's up to $250 per employee. If it's under a certain amount, and I don't want to go into that because that's Mike Hurdle's answer, and he can. You're free to go to the IRS.gov and / Secure Act, and it will give you more information on what those credits involved and who's eligible.
Thanks.
And then one more thing I'd like to add about 401k that's a little bit different from an IRA from a protection standpoint. So through the ERISA Act, a 401k is protected against lawsuits and bankruptcy and garnishment. So the only person, or I guess, that could garnish you are the IRS for back taxes, where and your spouse during a divorce through a quadro is the only 2 institutions, people that can actually garnish a 401k, whereas IRA is not protected against lawsuits, garnishments, or bankruptcies. So as a small business owner, when you're looking at a SEP IRA, versus even a solo 401k, there's a lot more protections as a small business owner, a micro business, to have a 401k for your institution versus an IRA. Not just from a tax perspective, but from actual protection perspective. And then one more thing I'd like to touch on with human interest, we're extremely affordable. And people say, well, how much is a 10-person company going to cost us? Well, from a cost perspective, sign the 5,500, we procure the ERISA bond. We do it all. We track eligibility for your employees. We do distribution notices, all the type of notices that need to be disclosed. We do, and it's in our price. We're very transparent on our pricing It's like a flat $150 a month and $4 to $8 per employee, depending on how involved you want human interest per month. So, we're less than $2,300 a year for a 10-person company, and that would qualify to cover that tax credit at 100%. So now it's a wash. So you're getting 401k at no cost for the first 3 years.
Yeah, and the one thing I'd like to chime in on that is, at tax time, we have prepared 5500s for clients in the past, and we had one client that tried to do it on her own, never filed the 5500 and came to us 3 years late, and she got hit with about $17,000 in penalties for just not filing the forms right. So again, it's something you don't really want to mess with if you don't really have the expertise to do it.
Definitely.
Yep.
Katie, yeah, definitely. Ouch. So Katie, thank you so much. Definitely a wealth of information here. And we have a YouTube channel. This will be up later. Something you definitely may want to watch again to soak it all in. Like and subscribe. I also popped our Facebook group in the chat. If you have follow-up questions and think of them later, feel free to pop them in there and we'll do our best to answer and get Katie's expert advice in there. I also put her Zoom link for her meeting link in the chat as well. So if you want to connect with Katie, all that information is there. Make sure you download the chat so you have all that information. Our next, our next Business Espresso will be in 2 weeks on, oh my goodness, in July already. And will be Bob Fly, and we'll be focusing on business burnout. So we will be having a little bit of self-care kind of focus in July, nice mid-year focus, and we will see you then. Thank you so much for attending, and we'll connect again. Have a great afternoon.